Hey everyone, it is Dani'i and welcome to this update video on the tropics. And so in this video we're going to be talking about our two tropical storms over the Eastern Pacific, Linda and Kevin. And in the Atlantic we have a new disturbance given a medium chance to develop, as well as tropical storm Fred that is an imminent threat to land. And so before I go into details, Alright, and so let us start off with the Eastern Pacific. And so we're seeing here that we have Tropical Storm Kevin and Linda. So let us take a look at Linda first. So as of right now, Linda has sustained winds of 50 miles per hour and it is accelerating to the west at 9 miles per hour. And so we're expecting to be strengthening during the next couple of days, as it is going to be making its way a bit more westward and then to the northwest. Fortunately, it's going to be out in the open Pacific and not going to be a threat to land. So regardless of how strong it gets, it is not going to be directly impacting any land areas, and that is the good news with the system. And so in terms of Kevin, it is still a sheared system and it has sustained winds of 45 miles per hour and it is accelerating to the northwest at 9 miles per hour. So expect it to be downgraded to a depression probably by later today, later tonight, or maybe early tomorrow morning, and then become post-tropical sometime tomorrow. And so fortunately, like Linda, Kevin is not going to be a threat to land, as it is going to be making its way out there, and then as it accelerates into cooler waters as well, the system is eventually going to dissipate. And so now let us go on over into the Atlantic basin. And so here we have Tropical Storm Fred in the Caribbean and that new disturbance. So there we have our disturbances just coming in one by one with chances to develop. And so let us talk about our new disturbance first. So this disturbance is given a 40% chance to develop and it is expected to trod in the Caribbean. And this is something quite interesting here. Most of our waves that we're seeing coming off Africa with chances to develop, a lot of them have been moving somewhat in the Caribbean or close to the Caribbean right there. And as we're going to be approaching next month when things really get heated, we could see a lot more of this trend here. So as Fred is going to be making its way out, we could have another system making its way in, and the next name to be used for this hurricane season is Grace. And so once the conditions are going to be conducive to enable strengthening and development of the system, then there is no doubt that we will have a tropical cyclone coming from this, and let's hope that it's not going to be something very significant. But we're going to be taking a look at current persistent conditions to see what to really expect of this new disturbance. And so now let us go on to our tropical storm Fred. So here we have the storm very close to the Dominican Republic. We don't have it being a very organized system with a lot of deep convection, but it is going to be getting there, especially when it moves into the Gulf of Mexico, because that is really the hot spot for it to further develop and intensify, because once it interacts with the islands of the Greater Antilles, weakening is anticipated. So let's go on to the cone forecast right now. And so we're seeing here that Fred currently has sustained winds of 40 miles per hour and it is accelerating to the west-northwest at 16 miles per hour. And we have a tropical storm warning that is in effect for most of the Dominican Republic, and we have a tropical storm watch that is in effect for the northern portion of Haiti, as well as the southeastern Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Islands. And so guys, once we're going to be having Fred crossing over Hispaniola, it is going to be weakening down to a depression. But once it reemerges into the Atlantic and is going to really be paralleling the northern coast of Cuba, then we could definitely see some more intensification of the system. And fortunately, it is not expected to become too strong, but regardless, don't let your guard down. We've seen a lot of times where systems are not expected to be very strong, like the intensity is a bit off, and they surprise us becoming much stronger than initially anticipated. So we definitely have to watch Fred and not underestimate it, but let's just hope for the best. And so if you're in portions of, I would say, south and western Florida, you want to keep an eye on this, but it's really the Florida Panhandle where landfall is anticipated early next week, and the system could make landfall as a strong tropical storm. I wouldn't be surprised if it manages to achieve hurricane status, but it will all depend on conditions, mainly the shear, because you don't have a lot of Saharan dust making its way into the Gulf of Mexico on a regular. So it's really going to be the shear that determines how strong our system is going to be if it emerges into the Gulf of Mexico. And also guys, guys, the track can always shift. So we have to wait and see what the eventual outcome is going to be. But as of right now, dangerous conditions are expected within areas that are in the watch and warning areas here. And so heavy rainfall, which might induce flooding, as well as those strong winds and that storm surge, are possible in portions of Hispaniola, the Turks and Caicos, and southeastern Bahamas. So guys, if you're there, please ensure that you're in a safe location, because the heavy rainfall is likely to induce flooding as a result of Fred, and just stay safe, guys. And so in terms of the wind shear map across the region now, so we don't have Fred being in an unfavorable region. So the green means that the area is favorable, the yellow means neutral, and the red is unfavorable. And so when you see a lot of those reds, that means that the environment is not so favorable for us to have much strengthening or intensification of a system, because that is what usually rips up our systems. And so Fred is not in an unfavorable region right now, and so conditions could be a little bit more conducive when the system emerges from Hispaniola, paralleling the coast of Cuba right there, because we do have a pocket of unfavorable shear right in that region. But the Gulf of Mexico is looking mainly favorable as of right now, but again, the shear is something that changes constantly, so we have to keep watching it and see what is going to be the eventual outcome, guys. And so in terms of the Saharan dust here, so there is really no Saharan dust lingering in the Gulf of Mexico as of right now. We do have minor amounts in the Caribbean, but it's really out in the main development region right there, just off Africa. And so when you see those darker oranges going to that red shade, that is when we have a lot of dust being in those regions. But as we're going to be heading into the lighter oranges and that yellow, not a whole lot of dust to really be too impactful on our systems. And so closer to the coast of Africa, right in that region there, we have a lot of dense Saharan dust, and the reason we won't have intensification is because it is dry air, and dry air inhibits moisture, and tropical cyclones are dependent on moisture in order to survive and to grow. And so we also have this disturbance here, or new disturbance, not being in that very dense dust, but it could still be impacted by the surrounding dry environment, guys. So we just really have to wait and see what the eventual outcome is going to be for that system. If we have a lot of Saharan dust persistent, then it's likely that we won't have much development. But if it manages to stay low latitude where there's not a whole lot, then we could in fact see our next tropical cyclone even by the end of this week. And so it is expected to approach the Lesser Antilles by maybe late this weekend on Saturday or so. So guys, as Fred is now out, here is a new potential tropical cyclone that is expected to make its way in. And that is really it for this update video on the tropics. If you found this video to be quite informative, please give a thumbs up, and you can also share your thoughts in the comments or ask a question. I'll try to respond as best and as soon as I can. And just remember to always be weatherwise.